Before Third Earth, before the Thundercats, before there was a single star, there was nothing. No light, no darkness, only absolute emptiness. And then the universe decided to exist, but it did not come alone. Two wills awakened with it. They had no form, no body. They were pure intention. One wanted to create, to ignite stars, to form worlds, to fill the emptiness with life. The other wanted to control, to take that creation and bend it to its will. Neither was more powerful than the other, and that was the problem. Because without balance, the universe could not sustain itself. Darkness dominated, everything became an instrument of domination. If light dominated, creation lost it. They needed to coexist. And for eons, they did. In silence, watching as galaxies were born, as civilizations rose and disappeared, waiting. It was darkness that broke the pact first, not with an explosion, not with a declaration of war. It moved slowly, like poison in water, spreading through the most vulnerable corners of creation, corrupting, consuming, and when the light sensed it, it had already lost too much ground to ignore it. The universe saw it all and understood that neither of the two forces could win alone. But it also couldn't allow one to destroy the other, so it made a decision that would change eternity. It divided the powers. 8 entities emerged from that, 4 from the darkness, 4 from the light, each with a power no mortal being could comprehend, and it chained them all. But the chains were not the same. To the 4 of evil, it gave almost unlimited power, but condemned them to never act directly. They can only whisper, corrupt, deceive, sow hatred in hearts that already carry that seed. To touch the world, they need a mortal to open the door for them. Willing to the 4 of good, it gave something different, responsibility. But equally chained, they can never impose themselves. They can never force anyone. They only act when they are freely accepted, invoked from a genuine conviction. They cannot save someone who does not want to be saved, and so they remained trapped. The evil ones in a black pyramid as dark as a starless night. The good ones in a white pyramid as bright as the first light of creation, both floating in time, waiting for the mortals who would decide which way the balance would tip. But they weren't waiting for just anyone. The spirits of evil do not improvise. They never have. From their eternal prison, they watched every corner of the universe, searching for the perfect crack in a mortal soul, the wound that never healed, the desire that was never fulfilled, the ambition that no one saw. But they did. They chose them before they were born. A humiliated prince who wanted a throne he felt was his by blood right. A brilliant advisor betrayed by those who swore loyalty. An invincible warrior reduced to a slave by the very ones who once trembled before him. A priest consumed by the fear of death, willing to pay any price for eternity. Fallen heroes, kings without crowns. Soldiers turned into instruments of empires that discarded them. Each one carried a different wound, but they all shared something. A moment of total darkness, in which the spirits of evil whispered for the first time, and none of them recognized that whisper for what it was. They mistook it for their own voice. That's the most terrifying thing about the ancient spirits of evil. They don't conquer you, they don't attack you. They convince you that the power they offer was always yours, that the hatred you feel is justice, that the destruction you will leave behind is necessary. And that's how the greatest villains the universe has ever known were born. Not from pure evil, but from real wounds in the wrong hands. Inside the Black Pyramid, there isn't just one monster, there are 4, and each one has a different specialty to destroy you. The crocodile is the most patient of the 4. It doesn't corrupt quickly, it doesn't corrupt with violence. It embeds itself in its chosen one's life for years, even decades, waiting for the moment their guard drops. The most unsettling part about the crocodile isn't its patience. It's that the victim never suspects a thing. Their whole life believing their decisions were free, when in reality, each one was pushed, millimeter by millimeter, toward the same destiny. When the moment comes, it strikes only once and never fails. The boar works differently. It looks for those who already have power, but feel it's not enough. It whispers a single phrase over and over again, until it stops sounding like a whisper and starts sounding like your own truth. You deserve more. Kings who already had kingdoms fell because of that hunger. Generals who already had armies fell because of that same hunger. But there is something the boar knows that no mortal understands in time. The hunger he feeds is never satisfied. The more you give it, the more it demands. There is never enough once the boar has set its claw on your ambition. The vulture does not seek the strong or the ambitious. It seeks those who have already lost everything. It comes at the end, when there is no hope left. when the mortal is completely empty, and there it offers power in exchange for the only thing they have left, their humanity. What makes the vulture the cruelest of the four is not the offer. It's the exact moment when it makes it, just when any other help would have been rejected out of pride. But desperation no longer allows for choice. But there is one that even his own brothers don't want to cross. The bull, the spirit of absolute fury. He doesn't need years of patience. He doesn't need elaborate words. He finds those who have been humiliated, beaten, stripped of all dignity, and he turns that pain directly into destruction. No filter, no delay, no return. The other three spirits build villains methodically, with strategy, with purpose. The bull doesn't build anything. He only unleashes what humiliation has already broken inside, and lets the whole world pay the price. 4 spirits, 4 specialties. And somewhere in the universe, one of them has already found their next victim. If the 4 of evil hunt, the 4 of good wait. And that difference changes everything. Inside the White Pyramid, there are no predators, there are guardians. 4 spirits chained to the same impossible rule. They can never impose themselves. They can only act if they are summoned from the genuine conviction of a free heart. That makes them slower, more vulnerable. But when they finally act, nothing in the universe can stop them. The first is the servant, the spirit of clarity. He does not offer power, he offers vision. To mortals lost in doubt, trapped between 2 paths, the servant does not tell them what to choose. He shows them for an instant the real consequences of each path, and lets them decide with their eyes open. What makes the servant unique is that he never manipulates the answer. Even if he sees the mortal about to choose wrongly, he cannot intervene beyond showing the truth. Then, there is the lion, the spirit of courage. He does not seek the brave, he seeks those who are terrified, who despite their fear, take a step forward anyway. There, in that exact moment of genuine courage, the lion responds with a strength that cannot be faked or bought. The great heroes of history were not born without fear, they were born despite it, with the lion responding to that decision. The third is the dove, the spirit of compassion. It is the quietest of the 4, and the hardest to summon. It only responds when a mortal chooses forgiveness. At the exact moment when revenge would be easier, more justified, more human, the dove does not reward weakness. It rewards the brutal strength it takes to forgive. But the most powerful of the 4, the one the other 3 consider their last hope, is the eagle. The spirit of sacrifice. It only awakens when a mortal is willing to give up everything, their life, their power, their future, without asking for anything in return. Not for reward, not for glory. The eagle does not respond to calculated heroism. It responds only to pure sacrifice, the rarest to find in any era. 4 spirits, 4 virtues, and while the forces of evil actively hunt their next victims, the forces of good can only wait, hoping that, somewhere in the universe, there are still hearts willing to choose the right path. The spirits of evil already had their chosen one. Wahang was already walking through the halls of power, accumulating hatred, fed by the boar, watched by the crocodile, awaited by the owl, vulture, and the bull. The Black Pyramid had already set its sights on the world. But the spirits of good were also watching. And what they saw was exactly on the other side of the Empire of the Sun. Not in a palace, not among the powerful. In a forgotten temple that no one visited, in a city that no one remembered, a girl was learning something that would unknowingly change the history of the universe. Her mother was not an important figure. She was a minor priestess with neither wealth nor influence. But every dawn before the empire awoke, she taught her something that no palace could buy, that the most powerful form of goodness is not proclaimed. It is practiced in silence, when no one is watching, when there is no reward, when the whole world is choosing the opposite path. The girl saw her heal the sick who couldn't pay, give shelter to foreigners whom no one else would accept, plead for slaves before guards who would never listen to her, not with magic, not with power, only with a conviction so firm that it seemed irrational. And the spirits of good stopped their eternal search at that moment, because what they saw in that girl was something they had been searching for millennia, and that could not be made. A heart without cracks, without open wounds, without accumulated resentment. A heart that didn't need to be filled with someone else's power because it was already complete on its own. The exact opposite of Wahang. While the crocodile had spent years pushing Wahang, millimeter by millimeter, toward his destiny, the spirits of good only watched the girl, without intervening, without whispering, without manipulating, because she didn't need to be shaped. She just needed to keep being what she already was. The years went by. The girl grew up. She inherited her mother's temple. She inherited her silence. She inherited her conviction. And it was then that the mother began to have visions. They weren't dreams, they were warnings. She saw fire consuming the entire empire. She saw a being of bandages and darkness walking the palace streets. She saw her daughter alone in the ruins of all that existed. In every vision, the ending was always the same. Her daughter on her knees in a destroyed temple, looking up at the sky with her arms open, choosing something that no vision showed her clearly. The mother didn't tell her about the visions. She didn't want fear to contaminate what her daughter was. Instead, she began to prepare something in secret. A ritual passed down from priestess to priestess for generations, kept for the moment when the balance of the universe would need it. It wasn't a ritual of power. It was something older and more difficult than that. It was a key. An unseen bond linked her daughter's heart to something the mother couldn't fully see in her visions, only sense. A luminous presence waiting on the other side. She didn't know what or when it would come. She only knew two things with absolute certainty: that her daughter would be alone when it arrived, and that she would need that door to already be open, so she built it, night after night, in silence. Without telling her daughter anything, without knowing if she would make it in time, without knowing if it would work, only knowing that it was the only thing she could do. And that night, she feared so much, it was closer than anyone could have imagined. That night, it arrived without warning. There were no signs. There was no time to prepare, only the sound of the empire of the sun breaking from within, and a being of bandages and darkness walking free for the first time in 600 years, with the power of 4 gods running through his veins. Mumm-Ra had awakened, and the empire would pay for each of those 600 years all at once. The fire reached the palaces first, then the markets, then the streets. People ran without knowing where to go because there was no safe place. Warriors who had defended the empire for decades fell in seconds. Walls that took generations to build disappeared in minutes. Mumm-Ra did not attack with fury. He attacked with the calm of someone who knows no one can stop him. And in the forgotten temple, the mother felt it before she saw it. It wasn't the sound of the fire. It wasn't the smell of the smoke. It was the same darkness from her visions. But real now, tangible, advancing. She knelt in the ritual chamber for the last time. She traced the symbols she had practiced for years with hands that did not tremble. And when the last symbol lit up, the spirits of good answered. Not with a booming voice, with a gentle presence that showed her, for an instant, something that had been hidden for millennia: the White Pyramid. Ancient as the universe itself, invisible to those who did not have a heart prepared to find it. She woke her daughter. She looked into her eyes, and she told her where to run. They fled together through the chaos of the burning empire. Smoke surrounded them. People screamed around them. Mumm-Ra devastated everything in his path without stopping, but the mother knew the way. The spirits of good guided her step by step towards something that no normal eye could see. They were close when the mother stopped. Behind them, a group of people trapped between the flames. No way out, no one to help them. People who would die in minutes if no one did something. The daughter looked at her. The mother had already made her decision. The daughter screamed. She resisted. She resisted. But the mother had already turned around, walking back toward the fire, toward the trapped people, toward Mumm-Ra. Not with power, not with magic, only with the same irrational conviction she had taught her daughter every morning for years. And then the dove appeared. A soft white light that descended in front of the crying daughter, guiding her step by step through the smoke and the ruins, toward something that began to shine in the distance, with a light that Mumm-Ra's fire could touch. The White Pyramid. She entered alone, crying, with empty hands and a broken heart. And in that moment, kneeling in the center of the pyramid, with everything lost, the spirits of good completed what the mother had begun years before. The key turned, the door opened. And what entered that pyramid as a daughter, without a mother, came out as something the universe had been building since the beginning. Mumm-Ra had destroyed the empire without knowing he had just created his only real counterbalance. Inside the White Pyramid, the silence was different from the silence of the outside world. It was not the silence of death. It was the silence of something that had been waiting for this exact moment for millennia. The 4 statues began to shine, one by one. The deer, the lion, the dove, the eagle, and then they spoke. Not with voices any ear could hear, with something deeper than that. A presence that was felt directly in the center of the chest, like a truth that had always been there. They told her what she already knew, but didn't want to accept. That she was the last one, that her civilization had disappeared, that her mother had chosen to stay, that the universe was broken, leaning toward darkness from the moment Mumm-Ra unleashed his power. And that balance demanded a response. Not an army, not a king, A single person, with an unbroken heart willing to carry something that would never end. And that person was her. He felt the impact of those words like he had never felt anything before, because accepting it meant accepting everything he had lost that night. His mother, his temple, his world. It meant that pain had no possible revenge. That the universe was asking him to take all that fire inside and turn it into something completely different. And in that moment, in that exact instant of rage and absolute pain, something in the darkness felt it. Far away, very far away, from the Black Pyramid, one of the evil spirits slowly raised its head, like a predator that detects the scent of blood on the wind, a crack. Small, but real. For millennia, they searched the heart but could not find it. The vulture began to move. But the dove arrived first, not with words, with a question hanging in the air, the same one his mother had unknowingly taught him every dawn for years. What is stronger, the hate that destroys or the love that rebuilds, the revenge that ends in a moment, or the forgiveness that lasts forever? She knew it before the question was finished. Forgiving Mumm-Ra was not surrendering. It was not forgetting. It was not justifying what he had done. It was something brutally harder than all of that. It was refusing to let what he had destroyed also destroy who she was inside. The crack closed. The vulture stopped. He slowly walked away into the darkness, frustrated. For the first time in millennia, he had found the perfect heart, and he lost it in the very same instant. She walked toward the sarcophagus. Every step was a renunciation. Her name, she left it behind. Her past, she left it behind. Her pain, she transformed it into something that no evil spirit could ever touch. And when her hands touched the cold stone of the sarcophagus, the four benevolent spirits, they answered with all they'd kept since the universe began. They didn't give her power, but purpose. She lay down and closed her eyes. And what entered that pyramid as a motherless daughter became something the universe had been building since before there was a single star in the sky. Mumm-Ra had destroyed the empire without knowing that he had just created his only real counterbalance, and so the waiting began. Centuries, millennia, civilizations were born and disappeared, while the White Pyramid remained alone, invisible, protected. Inside, it kept the only force capable of balancing Mumm-Ra's darkness. Until one day, the sky of the third Earth broke. It wasn't a planned invasion. It wasn't a deliberate search. It was three warriors from Kundar, Reptilio, Monkian, and Jackalma, falling from space out of control after a battle. Their escape ships crashing near something they didn't expect to find. The White Pyramid. And Mumm-Ra opened his eyes. What happened next? You already know. The most epic battle between good and evil that the third Earth ever saw would begin.
That's an exact copy of Mumm-Ra's pyramid. Except that this one is white.